I'd like to call to order the Avalon City Council meeting of Tuesday, November 3rd. Denise, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Here.
Councilmember Sampson?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Olson?
Here.
And Mayor Marshall.
Here. And if we'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Ralph Morrow. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And you may be seated. I just wanted to read something I prepared today, because it's kind of emotional. Every 2 weeks, your city council comes before you and discusses city challenges. However, I want to acknowledge the challenges facing many of our community members on a daily basis. Friends, families, workmates, and acquaintances. I do not believe there's not one member of the community at this time who does not know of a person in crisis. The list of community members battling cancer, alcohol and drug disease, and experiencing other life-threatening diseases is monumental at this time. Our community is exceptional when it comes to lending a hand, offering emotional support, prayer, and in some instances, financial assistance. I want to commend the community for being the caring community that it is today, and God bless everyone. Okay, are there any announcements?
Yes, Mayor, just that we're taking things a little bit out of order this evening. As you know, we're going to, following the oral communication section, start with general business for 2 items, then go to consent, and then go back to general business. So just to make the audience aware, that's the only announcement that I have.
And written communication.
Okay, yes, Mayor, we have one presentation this evening by the Los Angeles County Workforce Board. We have 2 representatives from the Workforce Board with us this evening, Mr. Kevin Anderson and Mr. Richard Birches. And so I'd like to call them to the podium to do their presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Marshall, members of the City Council. My name is Richard Birches. I'm the Executive Director of the Los Angeles County Workforce Development Board, and I'm here with my Deputy Director, Kevin Anderson. We are very pleased to be here today. One, to recognize the appointment of Councilmember Cindy Cassidy to the Workforce Development Board at the nomination of Supervisor Don Knabe. Last week we held our inaugural board meeting for the new Workforce Development Board that now operates under new federal legislation. And we were so pleased today to have a tremendous visit to the city of Avalon and to see your great city and all of the opportunities for partnership and engagement with the significant workforce development resources and partners that we represent. We have a very brief presentation that we want to walk you through, if you'll indulge us, but we really, again, appreciate the opportunity to share with you, and we look forward to really a number of great partnerships moving forward.
I think Cindy is a great appointment to that board. We're very proud of her.
She's a tremendous ambassador. As you can see, we had a meeting last week, and she's brought us here already within a week to make sure that we deliver on a promise. So the Workforce Development Board is one of 48 boards in the state, and there are 7 that serve the county of Los Angeles, and we serve 58 of the county's 88 cities and all of the unincorporated areas, Avalon being one of our 58 cities. Again, it was created by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act of 2014, one of the few pieces of legislation that had overwhelming bipartisan support, almost unanimous in the House of Representatives and Senate. And the new law intent was to strengthen the U.S. workforce development system through innovation in and alignment and improvement of employment, training, and education programs in the U.S. and to promote individual and national economic growth. We are the 2nd largest workforce board in the state and the 4th largest in the nation. And so we really operate a system of job centers and youth initiatives. There are 19 members on the board. The law mandates that the board have a business majority. It includes representatives of labor, community-based organizations, economic development, government, and the adult education and community colleges. Our board receives almost $58 million annually in funding to support employment and training programs. $34.5 million of which is designed for adults, that is anyone above 18 years of age and breathing, and about $25 million in youth programs. Over the last 4 years, with significant support from the Board of Supervisors, largely led by Supervisor Kanabi, support for youth funding, summer youth and year-round youth employment, paid internships, subsidized work experience. We've gone from serving about under 6,000 youth a year to over 14,000 youth in the county. We've seen today some opportunities where we believe youth from Avalon could certainly benefit from these programs. Over the last few years, as the economy has improved, the traffic through our America's Job Centers has gone from a high of almost 700,000 5 years ago to about 426,000 this past year. That's in part due to the improving economy, but with the new law, how we serve these 426,000 customers will change. We estimate that there are about 158,000 annual job openings throughout LA County annually, about 37% of which are new jobs, but 63% are replacement jobs. And all of the workforce systems, education, the K-12, adult ed, community college, EDD, Department of Rehab, and our workforce system are all now collectively working together in order to fill these job openings, but also to invest in a pipeline of talent to make them more competitive for these openings and to prepare youth to understand where the in-demand occupations are so that they could align their education and work experience decisions to prepare for the jobs of today and tomorrow. The new law also mandates that we really invest in high-growth industries. Healthcare, hospitality and tourism, professional and business services, transportation and logistics, and construction are 5 of the largest high-growth industries. As you can see, hospitality and tourism, one of particular interest to you, is one of our high-growth sectors and one that we are committed and mandated to invest a large percentage of our training and work assistance resources to support. So Avalon fits very neatly in our as a priority for us. Finally, I just want to say that, or reiterate that the new law mandates that we build a new ecosystem to support businesses and job seekers. And I say businesses first because we had a great meeting today with Jim Johan and really understand that our mandate is to serve businesses. Our mandate is to invest in job seekers and in youth in order to meet the needs of businesses, to meet their jobs. And so we look forward to the leadership that Councilmember Cassidy will bring to the board to ensure that Avalon is represented in our strategies and in our investments and in our partnerships, and that we are champions of Avalon as she is a champion of Avalon, and really ensure that we're aligning all of our systems, these major systems, in order to meet the needs of young people, but most importantly to meet the needs of businesses. And so we look forward to coming back, to following up on the questions and coming back with more answers and coming back with more of our team to ask even more questions, to really understand how we can invest in businesses and young people in Avalon. So thank you very much.
May I ask a couple of questions?
Yes, Kevin will answer all of them.
You talk about the replacement jobs being 63%. What do you attribute the high number, I'm assuming that's more of a turnover situation, and what do you attribute that high turnover to?
Yes, to baby boomers and to a strong interest in retirements, but really to baby boomers now reaching a time where they want to leave the workplace and really trying to align our investment in training to meet the needs of business to replace these workers.
Okay.
There's no logical cycle to it, but we really want young people and even those who are seeking new careers to understand where the opportunities are. And so the mandate is that we engage with economic development and look at labor market information to understand and make decisions based on data.
Okay.
And not just randomly.
Right. And does the Workforce Board support the proposed minimum wage increases, being that the majority of our business here is tourism? Is there do you all as a board take a stand on that, or? Go ahead, your turn, Kevin.
I guess one important point I think that Richard made about the Workforce Development Board and the way that Congress and the state has set up our board is that we really represent both business and labor. We have business and labor on our board. And so an issue like minimum wage, or also part of the county structure, we don't really take a stance for or against that. Okay. I think it's also important to note we did provide our department that houses the Workforce Development Board a role in the decision-making process for the Board of Supervisors. We help convene stakeholder input groups around Los Angeles County in different areas to get input from small businesses, to hear their input and concerns around the proposed increase, and also what solutions they might have and propose to mitigate the impact. So we've been supporting also the decision-making of the Board of Supervisors, but it's not an issue that we take a stance on.
Okay.
That's a great question because, in fact, before the Board of Supervisors voted on that motion, they asked us to come back with a study to understand how the workforce development resources could support any small businesses impacted by this motion. So then small businesses become a priority for us in our strategy to support them with their workforce needs, whether with subsidized employment, with training dollars, or to attract other resources in order to mitigate the impact on small businesses. So it really does prioritize small businesses and ensure that we are part of the solution to mitigate any real or anticipated impact.
Okay. Great, thank you. Great. Well, Cindy, we're going to look forward to you reporting out often on this. This is very good.
Very excited.
Yeah,
Very excited.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Then we shall go to city manager report.
I don't have a report this evening, Mayor.
Okay, city attorney. Oops, maybe you do?
Sure, you can bring that up, sure.
Yeah, just Sean Haggerty from my office has been working with Edison on draft regulations and policy, indeed covenants for the individual DSOL units. And so we're almost there where we can hopefully provide the materials to Edison, and that will then go through the process to allow those units. So we have been working on that, and we're hopefully almost there.
Thank you. Great. Council member report? Anybody like to start?
I will. I'll be attending the Gateway Cities Council of Government tomorrow, as well as the Transportation Committee meeting. And I just wanted to say Fall Fest, which happened, I believe, last Thursday, or maybe it was the Thursday before, was an absolute success. I am not sure that, I'm not sure how many people were there. I was trying to kind of look at how many people on Front Street and how it all came together, but that was such an unbelievably joyous occasion, and so kudos to the Recreation Department for a job well done, and nice to see so many members of the community out participating.
Councilmember Sampson?
No, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Hernandez?
Yeah, just give me a little shout out to a couple of birthdays. We have a couple of birthdays that are. One of them is Bob Machado, who we just had all those big fundraisers for because he's little ill. Today's his birthday, and tomorrow is actually my son's birthday, John Eric. So
Oh, congratulations.
just a little shout out and happy birthday to you guys and many more.
Yes, no, that's beautiful. That's it. And Mayor Pro Tem.
That must make you very old.
He was adopted.
I have a couple of them. Avalon Canyon Road Fitness Trail, there's going to be a community workshop on November 12th at 9 o'clock and 6 p.m. in City Hall. And they're also going to reach out to the seniors and to the kids, so come up and give your input. And unfortunately, Avalon has no football game this Friday because they got a bye in the playoffs, but they will have a home game next Friday, the 13th at 5 o'clock at Joe Machado. So be there and support your local team.
Okay. And when I just have a couple things. I requested, I got a call from Rhonda Kalish after Red, you can say it so much better, Red Ribbon Week. And she would like to, and I asked Ben if he would help set up a meeting with law enforcement, the school, of course, Choices, myself, and I don't remember who else was on the list, to discuss the drug problem and potential solutions. I think it's time we get back on the bandwagon and see what we can do. There is a problem which we hate to see in our little town with our young people, but so he will be setting that up and we'll be reporting back on that. Community member Tony Zeiler has asked me to make a public service announcement. He please asks, and I think we all wholeheartedly agree, that the bikes and the skateboards coming down from Avalon Canyon, if you would please slow down. We're very fortunate we haven't had many incidences, but Tony, we're with you on this. We request the community members who are skateboarding, riding their bikes, please slow it down. Thank you, Tony. Okay, oral communications. This is an opportunity for residents of the community to speak on issues not on the agenda. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes and no action will be taken.
Hi. Ralph Morrow, 222 Metropole. I'm here to talk about Veterans Day. It's going to be a week from Thursday on November the 11th at 11 minutes after 11. There's going to be three things that are going to happen on that day. At 6:30, there's going to be a fishing tournament off the mole. All the proceeds of the fishing tournament will be donated to VFW. At 11 o'clock, the Veterans Day ceremony at the Veterans Memorial Park at the mole. And then at the Sheriff's Department isn't here, so I'm going to speak for them. Between 5 and 7, there'll be an open house for the Sheriff's Department. And what they're going to do is they're going to invite, here's what they're going to do. There will be displays of emergency vehicles from the Sheriff's Department, LA County Fire Department, Avalon Fire Department, Beaches and Harbor, and Search and Rescue. They will all be there at 215 Sumner Avenue, right there at the Sheriff's Station. The veterans that will be participating in the Veterans ceremony will basically be there too, to talk to the folks if they want to talk to us. All this information will be in both newspapers when we get those, Thursday, Friday, and remind everybody. And come on out at least for the 11 o'clock ceremony, because then you can hear Joe sing the national anthem. He's pretty good. Thank you very much.
And is the fishing derby open for everybody or children, or just children?
The fishing tournament, there will be details in both newspapers.
Okay.
Here's what I have. I have a flyer that, a flyer like that.
Okay.
And it says basically that they're going to sell raffle tickets, they're going to give away a pen reel at 10 a.m. It's a fishing derby. And contact Brian Braze at 310-386-0705. And this will also be in the paper. That's all I know.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Okay.
That's great, thank you, we'll see you then.
Jordan Monroe, Management Aide for the City of Avalon. Just want to remind everybody that tomorrow is the third in the Words About Water series. It'll be here at the council chambers, so November 4th, starting at 5:30. It'll be, the topic will be the proposed Avalon Canyon bedrock well.
No, not you. I was having a hard time hearing that. I even missed the first of it.
That was
What is it?
effective, though. Wow.
What is this?
Note to self.
It's the Words About Water Community Forum on Catalina Island's water resources,
yes.
brought to you by the Santa Catalina Island Companies, the California Edison, and the City of Avalon. So tomorrow is the third in the series discussing the Avalon Canyon bedrock well.
Yeah.
And if you want more resources on water or water levels or where we stand, you go to cityofavalon.com, and you can click on the Middle Ranch Reservoir Water Level tab on the news feed, and that is where we update the reservoir levels each week and other supplemental information that we have about water on the island, archive videos from the previous meetings, other resources such as that.
And it is live streamed, correct?
It will be live streamed, yes.
Even though it is really nice when the community comes out and shows their support and listens, and in person, it adds something. So if people can get out in the dark and come on out, that'd be great.
Yes.
Thank you. Any other? Okay. General business.
Yes, Mayor, as we discussed earlier, we're going to start with a couple items in general business. The first one is a first reading of ordinance to amend sections of the municipal code related to floodplain management, water efficient landscape regulations, and general standards of development. Mr. Daniel Apt of Olanu Consulting is here to explain these changes to the code and why they are necessary. Daniel?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and council members. So as part of the Phase 2 stormwater permit, or otherwise known as the small MS4 permit that the city is subject to, there's a requirement within that permit to essentially take a look at the landscape codes within the second year of the permit, which finished on July 1st of this year, and evaluate any barriers to implementation of a development practice called low impact development. And that is practice to try to mimic pre-development hydrology and reduce pollutants from different development sites. And so as part of a grant that was provided to the city through the California Stormwater Quality Association, a grant which I manage for that association, we were able to provide at no charge to the city evaluation of the landscape codes to evaluate any barriers to low impact development. Through that evaluation and in coordination with city staff, we identified a few barriers to be removed and some additions to different sections of the code. Those different sections include Title VI, Sanitation and Health, Chapter 9, Floodplain Management, Article 5 for flood hazard reduction, Chapter 9, Floodplain Management, Article 9, Buffering of Channels, and Chapter 12, Water Efficient Landscape Regulations. And then also in Title 9, Planning and Zoning, Chapter 7, General Standards of Development, Article 4, Yard Requirements, and Location of Structures or other projections into yards. So that information has been provided in red line in the report here. But this is a requirement of the permit. In the first year was the identification of any gaps. In the second year, actual update of these sections of the code based on the recommendations of the grant consulting team, and adoption of that code will ensure that the city is in compliance with that section of the code.
I just had a question on turf. Show me ground cover surface of mowed grass, and it goes through the example. Why would we have a whole bunch of grasses available if we're trying to conserve water and be an efficient use of? I mean, it's probably a more efficient use of water than some, but.
Yeah, so the idea is to be able to provide a wider range of potential types of vegetation to be able to integrate in these different parts of the code. Obviously, native vegetation is preferable, and currently I'm working on with the city some landscaping guidance on what types of vegetation are both more water efficient as well as more pollutant beneficial as well. So, but this is just to provide as much flexibility as possible.
I mean, I don't know why we're allowing grass at all. I mean, to a certain degree, you know, why shouldn't everything be totally drought resistant but that's okay. And these plans then go before the planning commission or the planning department? That's who looks at all this information when they do the work?
Any type of development application would go through the planning commission for full approval. And then there would be probably technical experts that would review that for all of these types of details.
All right.
And just for the record, the title is an ordinance amending Titles 6 and 9 of the Avalon Municipal Code for floodplain management, water efficient landscape regulations, and general standards of development. Again, this is one of the requirements of the cease and desist order.
I just had a question on section 6(9.9). Unlawful to remove vegetation within a buffer of 25 feet from any stream, wash, arroyo, or channel. So that applies to the island company's channel that comes through. So the homes that are along the channel would have to, if they made any changes in their vegetation, would have to get city approval to do so?
Correct. The whole purpose is we're trying to, one of the purposes of the, actually, this is for the water permit that the state put on Avalon for the first time, not the CDO, let me correct that, but it's to eliminate or reduce stormwater runoff that goes into the ocean. And so the thought of the state is if you have vegetation near the channels, it will absorb that water and not flow into the channels and then into the ocean. So that's why that's requirement is there.
And those buffers also have the benefit of filtering, reducing the amount of water and filtering any pollutants associated with the upstream development. So.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Wilson?
Oh, no. You want a motion?
Yeah, I would love
sorry.
a motion.
Public comment?
Public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public, would you like to comment on this?
Doesn't look like it.
Not today.
I move to introduce and waive all further readings of an update of the addition in the following sections of the Avalon Municipal Code. Title 6, Sanitation and Health. Title 9, Planning and Zoning. That's it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any further comment? Call for the vote. Thank you very much.
All ayes.
Okay, thank you. Item number 2.
Yes, Mayor. Item number 2 is the unaudited preliminary financial results for fiscal year 14-15 and a proposed amendment to the 15-16 budget. So as you can see, Bob is ready to talk on this item, but before we get there really quick, just want to remind the council, as you recall from when we adopted the budget earlier this year, we told you that we would be coming back to you once we had the year-end results. We would be recommending some infrastructure and some equipment purchases. We carved those out largely in order to, at that time, achieve a balanced budget with those results and information that we had. We're in a fortunate position this year due to some conservative forecasting, an exceptional year, and some underspending. We do have some funding available to use for infrastructure improvement and purchase of replacement equipment, et cetera, to the tune of about $2.4 million combined. So we have before you a list of items that we think are very important, not only for things like the cease and desist order, but also for replacing aging equipment, also to address the proposed MOUs that we anticipate will be adopted, et cetera. So in order to accomplish all that, and also to build up our reserves too, we're proposing to increase those with about $500,000 from this additional money. So with that, I'd like to kick things to Bob, who will give you kind of a little more detail as to what you have before you this evening. Bob?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. I'm excited that this being one of my first general items to bring you excellent news. And that news is that the fiscal year last year ended up being about $2.4 million better than budgeted. And that's excellent news. The main reason was that the budget was conservative. We budget conservatively to ensure that funds are available in using worst-case scenarios. And last year was an exceptional year where the revenues ended up being about a little over $1 million better than budgeted. And it's showing that we're pretty much recovered from the recession. And there was reduced spending in the capital expenditures compared to budget and some other expenditures. So the overall results were about $2.4 million better than budget. And we're coming back to you, as we said we would, after the budget was adopted for this fiscal year, 15-16. Now that we know how last year ended, and there were several capital expenditures that were proposed for this year, but we decided to hold off until we knew the results for fiscal year 14-15. And as Ben mentioned, we have the aging infrastructure, the cease and desist order, and the MOU that are coming up this year that we need to address. And these expenditures have been vetted by the finance department and by all the department heads. The amendment is proposing to show that project our revenues increasing by $1 million more than what was originally budgeted, and that's based on the actual results from last year and the trends that we've been seeing. Increasing the ROPS by $1.1 million. Any projects associated with the ROPS revenue are totally dependent on that being approved by the Department of Finance of the state. And the increased in expenditures and MOUs are considered in this amendment, and the infrastructure totaling about $3.9 million. And we would still be able to increase our reserves by more than $500,000. And the ending reserve balances, our cash balances in our funds, if the budget amendment is adopted, would be in excess of $10 million. And we would be coming back to you just by adopting this amendment does not mean that then you're adopting all of these projects. Each project over $5,000 would still be brought before the council for their approval, and the details given as we usually do. We're also proposing to come back later this fiscal year to propose a reserve targets for our funds, and then we can consider that in our future budget cycles. I'm available for any questions.
With that, you mean the proposed policy for reserves and how we move forward?
Yes.
I'm sure there are questions here this evening.
I've been through most of mine already, but a couple that have come to mind since we spoke earlier today. The Pebbly Beach Rockfall, this is actually a question for our Public Works Director. Pebbly Beach Rockfall fencing project, how soon would we be able to start that? I know the contract has already been awarded.
It's way too much money.
Well, I think if I could jump in before Dennis speaks on the actual timing of the construction. Our first thing that we're going to do is we're going to submit this to the State Department of Finance in order to see if it will be approved.
Oh, okay.
And we actually feel that it could very well likely be, and if that's the case, that's a tremendous boon to the city. So that, Bob, you'll remind me, the ROPS go in February? When's the schedule for the ROPS to be approved?
It's much earlier than that.
Okay.
We submitted the ROPS to LA County, and then LA County gives it to the State Department of Finance. LA County has reviewed it, and they did not reject the Pebbly Beach or several of the other items. We expect to hear back from the Department of Finance within the next couple weeks, and we will know. And the funding would then, that funding is for the next half of the year. So we would receive the funds in February timeframe.
So
But
we'll
we
keep
would
you-
know.
Yeah, we'll keep you posted on that. It's very
Okay.
important, obviously, and then that will then decide what we do next as far as the contract. But we're very optimistic on this.
And that
Okay.
would be great kudos to Chris Wojcik. He was the one that really pushed for that, along with the consultants.
But the bid that came in was that over 2 million or something, as I recall? Wasn't that a big bid when it came in?
I can't remember the exact amount.
It was over 1 million.
Under $1 million.
It was under
Yeah.
$1 million when it came to do the whole Pebbly Beach.
Pebbly Beach and a little bit of Casino Point.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I was thinking it was way higher than that. Okay, great.
900,000, right?
And
Yes,
then
yes,
I
ma'am.
might have been misunderstood, but I was under the impression that we located a Bobcat already.
The Bobcat, that's coming to you next council meeting.
She's referring to the Bobcat that resides up at the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, not the Bobcat that I
Well-
want?
Right, this is one that the city owns, that we have updated our inventory so that we believe we've accounted for all vehicles at this point, but this was not
Yes.
included in the list. It
It's-
is now.
So this will be an additional item?
Oh, a pair of Bobcats.
Oh,
A pair of Bobcats.
The current Bobcat we own is up at the treatment plant. It's close to surplus material. We're going to be coming back for a new one soon.
Okay, and then just thank you, Dennis.
You're
And
welcome.
then just a clarification, the agenda automation software, is this the software that will integrate with the website that you can click a portion of the agenda and it'll take you to that portion of the meeting? Is that what this?
There's actually two, Denise, you'll have to correct me on this, there's two phases of it. One is going to be what you're speaking to. The other part is going to automate the assembly of the agenda internally such that it's going to streamline the process that the city clerk uses to put the whole thing together to be a template. And it's going to allow for, you'll give me the correct term, collaboration, document collaboration and version control that we don't currently have. And we're
Okay.
relying on the antiquated email back and forth system, which is fraught with peril when it comes to creating a document for a final version.
Part of what you were speaking about with the website is the public communication application and website.
Okay, that
That's
was gonna be
included in
my
that
next,
amount.
my next question too, and is that speaking to the mobile app that we've been discussing?
Well, that's different as well. There's two mobile app efforts. There's one to introduce, there's an effort to make the city's website mobile friendly. Okay, and that's on here so that wherever you access it, it works on your mobile device. The other thing we're going to be coming back to you with is a request for citizen response management, wherein visitors and residents could download an app to their phone, and in doing so, not only would have a mobile version of the city's website, but be able to report issues, make us aware of problems from their mobile phone, from Facebook, having a really quick, easy way, and it would go into a database and a workflow management so we can address the issues.
Okay.
So that'll be coming to you in December, a proposal for that. We're super excited about that one.
Great, thank you. That's the rest of my questions.
I just have one on the sewer infrastructure improvements. It says 50% there at 500,000. Is that just the start of the capital improvement stuff?
Yes, that's the intention, is that would be the first half.
That's the first half of it?
And then we would, in our next budget cycle for the next fiscal year, we would propose to finish up those projects. So that's the estimated first half of that phase.
And we don't know what the other half would be, right, until later?
We would be coming to the council
Correct.
and with the project, with the details.
Okay.
And as I understood it, this would wrap up a lot of these emergency repairs that are happening now. although we would be catching a lot of them before they became emergencies.
Hopefully.
So the next phase, we could start getting into the actual sewer system that's down, that really needs to be repaired, let's say between the casino and the other side of town, South Beach.
This is going to be the start of some major repairs and things that we've been deferring for some time. We're also looking to build up the inventory of parts so that, as you know, sometimes an issue happens and we have to delay until we actually get something brought in. So we want a viable inventory. We want to really make some impact here.
Okay, how do we prioritize some of the other things that are going to be coming up, or some of the things that are on the different council members' minds, or the things that we find that are priority? Are we going to be able to come forth with those ideas, such as skate park?
I would say tonight is an opportunity. If you have an item that you'd like us to include, we could bring back another budget amendment for that, or we could, it's your choice to reduce or increase these items.
I have had some requests to get the skate park open again. It's a shame that it's closed. Kids are having problems. They're having, they're going out there creating mischief. They need the skate park open so they can go, get their kicks other ways than drugs. It'd be a good idea. Monica and Chris actually just invested in some new wood for the actual ramps out here. So I think it'd be a good idea if maybe we could contribute something to that, because as we know, at one time, Pacquiao Field donated like over $100,000, and that seemed to disappear into the budget somewhere. It would be nice if we could contribute some money towards the effort that Chris and Monica are putting into the skate park, and then it's also an investment to the children of our community as well, and adults if they like to skate too.
Is it actually locked up and closed?
I believe it is, because the ramps, as Councilmember Sampson was indicating, have got some damage to them that makes them unsafe.
Okay.
But
Yeah, Monica and Chris they're just waiting for a green light from us. Whatever we need to do to get that back online, we got to jump on it, because it's really important.
Jen, maybe you can update on that one.
Yeah, sure. We've been working closely with Monica and Chris, and David has been trying to set up a meeting between them and the Public Works Department, who has offered to build anything, obviously during non-sinkhole times that we can. And we're just basically waiting on Monica and Chris to have some time freed up in order for them to come and work with us on a plan and just move forward and build it. Because currently right now, the equipment in there isn't safe to use, and so both Chris and Monica and the city and our insurance company said that it needs to be locked, and so that's the state that it's in right now. But we are willing at any time to meet with them, and we're just waiting for them to find the time to sit down and make a plan with us and let us know what they want to see there. They purchased this skate light with funding that they had fundraised already, and they have several thousand more that they had fundraised that they're waiting to spend money on, and we said that we could assist with labor, and certainly we have a small amount that we budget every year for the skate park maintenance anyways, and that has yet to be spent this year. That's just waiting to move forward once we collaborate with them on what they want to see. So we're ready to move forward whenever they have the time to move forward. I think they've just been very busy.
They're ready to go. So
well, so are we, and we've been speaking with them every few days. So we're just waiting for them to move forward. So
okay, so that's something that's kind of important. I think it's important to the community, the kids. You were just mentioning there's a problem with drugs. Let's see if we can put some positive feedback out there for the community, so we can create something for them to do.
We can come back at the next council meeting with an update on where we are with that plan. If
that
you,
would be great.
yeah.
And if they could find the council's support on that, I'm sure they would be grateful. And then maybe we could also get a work party together and get some of the local contractors.
That's a great idea.
To get over there and help Chris out. He usually does all this stuff by himself. He's like a one-man team, but I think he could use a little bit of help if some people would actually like to get out there and meet him and put the nose to the grindstone out there. So anyway, that's one suggested that I have. And then I was also seeing that the swim float is on here for $10,000. That's budgeted. That's the swim float that we had this year.
It's an additional swim float.
Oh, it's another one?
The harbor master felt that the new swim float was a resounding success, a lot of support from the lifeguards and the community, and so he wants to deploy a second one. I think I got that right. Did I get that right, JJ?
Oh, Middle Beach?
Yeah, Middle Beach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice, very nice.
Yeah. I know you've used it, I've used it, it's pretty fun. Yeah.
That sounds great. That's a pleasant surprise.
And I just have a couple questions too, and then we can bounce around. The security cameras, what are those, who are those for? Harbor or where?
There are some security cameras for Harbor, and then also for the general facilities, such as our lobby and a few other places.
Okay.
Yard.
Okay. And the hospital generator. I know that you were working with them on some kind of another option. You're wanting us to put that in, but still negotiate some deal with them at a later date?
Right, so the idea is you set this money aside potentially for this purpose. Bob and I are gonna come back with a proposed covenant for you to review and consider. Any allocation of funding for that generator, what we've informally discussed with the hospital would involve, at a minimum, some type of in-kind services available to the city and/or the community. And so we're working on that now. We plan to bring back an agreement for you to review and consider.
Okay, great. And from Public Works, is really, I don't see a lot in here for Public Works. Is there something, large pieces of equipment or something? It seems like people
Well,
say.
the majority of this is Public Works.
Well, I see a lot for Harbor.
Well, street improvements, sewer infrastructure,
But I mean,
stormwater infrastructure.
equipment things, like big things that go up in the air, or, you know.
The fun stuff.
Like lifts and cranes. I mean, people say that some of this stuff is old and should be red tagged, and I don't know what I'm talking about, but is there anything we're not touching upon, Dennis?
If I could on this really quick, everything on here has been vetted by the department heads, and the instruction was, you know, make this the priority items
Okay.
for expenditure. And so if it's important, I want to hear about it. If it's not important, or if it's something that is nice to have, that's great. But let's catch the most important items. So this
Okay.
reflects that.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that there couldn't be additional items brought back to you during the course of the fiscal year that are emergency. For the item of the man lift that you're speaking of, one creative solution we're looking to address in that issue is an agreement with the Island Company. They do have a unit. They don't use it very often. They've indicated that we could have some type of joint use arrangement, or we could, you know, with proper insurance, use that piece of equipment, which would be great.
Okay.
So the harbor equipment,
Bunch of things on here for the harbor: boats, outboards, piers,
yeah, the harbor
cranes.
equipment truck is on there?
Sorry?
The harbor equipment truck, the one that replaced.
That's on here. Harbor maintenance truck is on here.
Great, that's all
Yep.
I needed. That's important.
Okay.
Yes, I have another question just about the infrastructure of the sewer. Does that include the sewer plant also in that, or is that just the
I'll
infrastructure
have Dennis
throughout the city?
speak to that, exactly what was used to tally that out.
Is
He
that,
knows.
is that just for the, within the city and the valves and stuff? That's,
Yeah, right now it's just the sewer collector piping
the piping
issues.
and the valves and that kind of stuff?
Correct. Now,
So-
in June or July of next year, we're coming back to you for substantial improvements to the water treatment plant, SCADA system, and a few other things that are a requirement of the CDO.
Okay, because the sewer plant is in dire straits also, correct?
Correct.
But yet this is, pardon me?
Van Manning, the manager out there, has been submitting just recently a couple proposals for me to put on the next fiscal year budget
Okay.
for the plant
Yeah,
itself.
because I know that's in dire straits, it's always been like that, but I was just wondering if this reflected any of that with this money here.
One thing that's going to help, I'm glad you brought this up, is going to help the wastewater treatment plant out, is that in this budget that you adopted there, we're actually storm drain, what's the term for it? Storm drain gates, am I calling it the right? The
Yes.
duckbill flaps?
The flaps, the
Yeah,
gates.
flapping.
On the
So
pump.
when those are installed, that's
It's
going to
gonna
limit the
relieve
amount
them.
of, and that's
Right.
going to help
Right.
the plant to what you're speaking
Yeah.
of. So we've got actually an additional amount that we've put in this budget amendment because it turned out that our initial estimate was a little low. It's
Correct.
around an $80,000 total price tag, and so with this amendment, if you approve it, we will proceed with that, and that is going to benefit the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, that was just my question for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot more we could put on the list, you know, but we're trying to prioritize right now.
Okay, with the state of affairs of our South Beach, is that something that needs to be discussed about this? Because right now, as far as I can tell, that beach is almost to the point to where we're gonna have to close it if we don't fix it. And I'm talking the lower section, not where they're filling in on top. The lower section is getting too low. We measured it the other day, and it was 10 feet down to the rocks from the top. And we also have the photographs of how it used to be. And I was under the understanding, talking to a historian last night, and they said basically they used to have to bring in sand every year, basically to put down in there to make sure that sand is at a safe level to work.
We're fortunate enough to have a LA County Public Works Department on a conference call tomorrow or the next day to implement and give us advice as to how to refurbish or replenish the beach side.
Okay.
They have experts that have worked in Marina del Rey under the same situation. Jordan has taken the lead on that and set us up with some communications with some people.
Okay.
Also,
But what we're also doing is we're also requesting that you fund a bathymetric study as part of this, because we're going to have a scientist take a look at what's going on in the harbor so they can give us advice, because to what you're speaking of, we don't want to have to necessarily be in a situation where we just simply put sand somewhere every
Right.
year, it washes out, and we have to repeat the exercise. Maybe it means there has to be some dredging, maybe it means there has to be some change in the configuration, we're not sure, but we need somebody to tell us how to get to that point where we don't continually lose that
So
part
it's
of the beach.
something that is ongoing, and it's taking a pretty much a top priority right now, or it's getting up towards the top because it
It's
needs
of
to be
concern for
addressed.
us, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because that beach is that's our honey for the summertime. We gotta have that open, we gotta have it nice, and it can't be what it is right now. Gotta get through the winter, but at the same time, we gotta look at exactly what needs to be done, and it's something that's probably gonna have to take some attention each and every year. I mean, I know that's how this particular historian told me they used to do it in the past, but, you know, we gotta understand where that sand is going. If we're putting sand there every year, we gotta understand where it's going. If it's going out of the harbor, that's fine. If it's going in the harbor and it's making the harbor shallower, I think that would probably be a problem, so. All right, I hope that stays on your priority list, because that's really important to me, and it's really important to a lot of people that have approached me on that particular beach, all right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Well, I see there's some good news and some bad news. I mean, the good news is we have balances of $10 million, which I see we're also forecasting $1 million increase in revenues, and I just wonder what the effect of El Nino is going to have on those revenue forecasts. Just did some.
That's a good point. We don't know.
Yeah. Does the community have any questions or comments? Seeing there are none, or hearing there are none, let's continue. Any other questions, council?
I have none
Okay.
for the time being.
All righty, and is there,
I'll make a motion to receive the report of the fiscal year 14-15 preliminary results and adopt the amendment to the fiscal year 15-16 budget to include additional revenue and spending.
is there a second?
I second it.
Call for the vote. Great, good news, thank you, good job.
All ayes.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you all staff, because you were all involved in that.
Definitely.
Okay. Item number 2.
I believe at this point, we're moving to the consent calendar.
I remember the department. Yes.
Yeah, so we have 8 items on the consent calendar this evening before we go back to the general business section once again. So I'll just go through those items briefly. Actions from the October 20th meeting, a continuance of the consulting contract for Chris Wojcik, a proposal to purchase a CCTV camera, consideration of an increase to a an existing professional services agreement with AMMA for transit planning, the replacement of Volvo outdrives for the Harbor Department, the replacement of an outboard motor also for the Harbor Department, the acknowledgement and authorization of contract expenses for temporary planning, and the continuance with the waiver of wharfage fees to enable the Catalina Express free birthday trip to continue.
Council?
I'd like to pull item number 4, please.
I'd like to pull item number 9, please.
Okay.
And I just want to ask number 4, okay. Yeah.
Wait,
4 and 9, okay.
4 and 9.
I'm in concurrence with those as well. So, may we have a motion on the other item?
I'm sorry, I just have one question on item number 5, but I don't need to pull it. Ben, we spoke earlier, the capital improvement projects list states $75,000. This particular item is coming to us at $69,000.
Plus the shipping.
Yeah, no, right. We did speak about this earlier, Councilmember. So the budget amendment does include a more generous amount. It is, like everything that we do, we always have a little bit of extra room just in case, but you're correct. The camera's gonna be 70 grand, not 75 grand. And again, with all the budget amendment items, first of all, you have to approve them. And then secondly, you do not have to spend that allocated amount either.
Great, thank you, I just wanted that clarification.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, what's your pleasure on the other items?
Move staff on 3, 5 to 8, and 10.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about, I'm sorry.
Oh, a little bit.
Which one?
13?
They're not 13 yet.
13 is back to general business.
Back to general business, okay.
Okay, so do we have a motion on,
What about 7?
you just did, is there a second on that motion?
Did you include 7, 3, 5, 8?
3, 5 to 8, and 10.
Oh, 5 to 8 and 10, okay. I second that.
Okay, so we move second, comments? Call for the vote?
All ayes.
Okay, item number 4. Thank you, Denise.
Yes, item number 4, we're proposing that the council authorize the continuance of a contract with Chris Wojcik. We're asking for this so that Mr. Wojcik could be present and assist with the audit coming up this year. We have a new full-time finance director, Bob, of course, as you well know. However, a big chunk of the audit is going to involve historical questions and perspective that frankly in the 3 months that Bob has been here, he's just not going to have. He wasn't present when a lot of these things took place. Auditors asked questions in the past. That's how they gather their information and make their findings. We think that it would allow the audit to move forward in a much more expeditious manner and us to get through things and focus on some of the core things we need to address by allowing this. We have not had, this will be the first time in 10 years, I think, and we're hoping to do this with Chris's help, that we would have audited financial statements delivered on time. And just, we are largely caught up, but this will really help us kind of continue that trend. One nice thing also about having Chris around, I'm sure you well know, is he tends to find money for us, which is always valued.
So the reason I pulled this is that I would feel in the 2 months remaining in the year to finalize this, I would feel more comfortable with a not to exceed amount of $15,000 versus the $25,000. Perhaps some of the direct meetings or participation with the auditors specifically could be Bob versus Chris. However, that could work to just keep our budgeted numbers down. And then also I'd like to move us forward to discontinuing contract services for this particular position now that we do have
full-time
director on board. So if we could try to wrap up these services by December 31st, I know that's what you're asking in here, but I'm more comfortable with a not to exceed of $15,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're looking at just November and December, that's $12,500 a month. And you would think that would be a full-time position, and here it says as needed. So, Yeah, I'm in a concurrence with Cindy.
Fine.
And then if there's something that really comes up, I think come back to us.
Sure, no, that's fine. And Chris also wants to move on too, I might.
Right.
want to-
I mean,
I know he
Chris,
does,
that's-
yeah.
but we already have a full-time guy, and I understand that Chris has been great. It's just hard to swallow sometimes when we're paying two salaries up. We got Bob here, and then we're gonna bring Chris back, and we're throwing more money out there. It's just sometimes kind of hard to swallow, so I think that's a little much.
Okay.
So I would be in favor of presenting a motion to authorize the city manager to extend the agreement for Mr. Wojcik through December 31st for a not-to-exceed amount of $15,000, allowing him to continue serving as a temporary consultant.
Second.
We moved and seconded. Comments? Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Thank you. And item number 9.
Yes, item number 9 is the acknowledgement and authorization of temporary planning department expenses incurred beyond my spending authority. This was for Mr. Steve Flint for consulting work and temporary planning oversight. We went beyond my spending authority of $5,000. The city has incurred approximately a little over $13,000 this fiscal year. So with this item, I'm trying to clean this matter up, get your authorization, pay these invoices, and be completed with this contract.
This is what we owe him?
Well, two things. We have just a fraction of this that is still owed to RGS. There has been a prior invoice paid. It's just that I exceeded my spending authority, so I need to bring that back to you for your approval.
How much more do we need to pay out?
I think it's around $6,000 that we owe that's remaining.
Maybe 83, 5,000.
Is it? I'm sorry.
And specifically, these services were for the Vaughn's appeal.
Primarily for the Vaughn's appeal and also temporary planning oversight.
Okay.
Well, if we don't pay him, he sues us?
So we're not...
What's that?
If we don't pay him, he sues us?
Well, I mean, it's not an individual contract. This is through RGS. Yeah, you're being funny. I know. I understand.
But, I mean, it's...
So we're through with his services then, correct? Okay,
I think we have public comment.
no problem.
Yes, and is there public comment?
Pam Albers, 217 Calle del Sol. I wanted to speak to this because it seems to me that there's an ongoing concern that I have, and I've talked about it with other people in the community who have that concern, that there seem to be contracts that are being let for something other than supplies or equipment in amounts more than $5,000, and that this $5,000 authority on the part of the city manager is a very loose and moving target. And this was the more egregious one because, in fact, Mr. Flint was paid almost $18,000 in fiscal 14-15, and then there's this additional amount, which was specifically contrary to the actions on the motion of Councilmember Cassidy, July 21st, 2015, that it was to approve a contract for Mr. Flint for day-to-day activities not to exceed $5,000, and then specifically not to let an additional $25,000 that was requested by the city manager for Mr. Flint to perform additional planning services, I think related to the local coastal plan. The actions, unfortunately, kind of stop, so you can't track that, but I do pay attention to what's going on, and I don't remember that item ever being brought back. So despite the council having specifically directed that no more monies be spent, they are spent, and then we come back, and I'm not sure what it means to acknowledge and approve it, but I think that what you're doing is just approving the expenditure, the warrant being issued, but I'm hoping that you're not just forgetting that this essentially is disregarding actions and directions on the part of the city council.
I do recall that.
And also, which I believe are going to be coming before you in a more full manner than just a staff report like this, so that there's no estoppel here or no waiver of your ability to question the actions of the city manager in this regard. And then I guess, the other question is that the code purchasing provisions, which are in Article 4, Section 3-4106, specifically talks about the city manager's authority to purchase supplies and equipment. That was updated like less than a year and a half or 2 years ago. Is there a resolution somewhere that specifies how that $5,000 is calculated? Is it a month? Is it a paycheck? Is it a fiscal year? I think that there's some lack of clarity in that regard. Thank you.
Pam, can you give that number again, please?
It's section 3-4106, 3-4.106.
I do recall approving the 5,000 for Steve Flint. I believe that we okayed that, but that's what, when we said he's done. And then I didn't see him again.
He's not engaged in any efforts right now to amend the local coastal permit or anything of that nature. He's not under contract working for the city of Avalon.
I understand that, but after we did agree to pay him that $5,000 for another couple of weeks, come to mind, I didn't see him again. He left. He left the island. Matter of fact, I told him I wanted to have a conversation with him, and he never called me up, and he never contacted me, never even attempted to contact me. So I do recall this, and I guess what I want to do is I want to bury this. I want to take this particular contractor, and I don't want to utilize him anymore. Not with this council, at least. Not as long as I'm part of the council. I don't like the work that he did, and I'm finished with it. And I think we should pay. I think we should pay him his $5,000, and that's it. That's what we contracted. That's what we agreed to pay him, as Pam had specified. So I think we should pay him that, and that's it. Unless you can tell me what else he did for us. I mean, that's what we agreed to pay him.
Well, a couple things. So there was an amount of the contract that was, the amount of work that was done without an active contract at the start of the fiscal year. And that's part of what I'm trying to address with this item tonight. The other part is he did exceed the amount of the contract that you authorized, and that was due to the need to have some temporary planning oversight. So it went beyond what we thought we were going to expend, and those are hours already incurred when he was working here and working on projects for us.
Okay, so we went beyond, and I'm saying we because it's actually you went beyond we went beyond allowing him to spend more than $5,000. If we owe it to him, I guess we have to pay him, but I'm just not happy about it, because that's why we sat here and we said we'll extend the contract $5,000 and he's done. I never saw him again. That's why I question is the amount of work he did and what work he did do for us then.
Well, I mean, I can certainly, happy to show you some of the things that he did do. I can speak to the fact that he was here.
He also participated for the Vaughn's appeal, did he?
He did.
This was after the Vaughn's appeal.
No, we approved the $5,000 in July. The Vaughn's appeal was August 5th.
Right. He actually oversaw that effort and delivered that report, as you probably recall. So that was.
Hi. Yes. Yolanda Montano, 20 Canyon Terrace. I don't think the issue is the scope of work that he entailed. I think the issue is he was only approved for $5,000, and it exceeded what you guys approved. And it's not okay that another over $5,000 was assumed that the city was just gonna pick up that cost without any question or any concern to our residents, to the city council members. And to me, that's not okay. Without approval, you have to come up here over $5,000 of anything to get approved by you guys. And I just think it's not okay at all. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we should probably just resolve the debt and move on, because I don't think we need to speak about this anymore. I mean, point well taken, correct, Ben? The point is well taken, correct? In other words, we can't be exceeding, if the council approves a $5,000 limit, then that's what it is.
Understood.
Then we need to come back. So, point well taken, correct?
Understood, yes.
Okay, yeah, same here. I understand, and it's fine with me. How much is the amount that we have to pay?
Looks
this?
like $8,300. The city's incurred $13,200 in expenses, but we allow him to spend $5,000, so if that's what it is, that's what I'm figuring out, unless it's something different.
Okay, I just want
I
to
don't
see
know.
the 3,000 and whatever the expenses are that he incurred, and
Sure.
in later time. And I don't have a problem approving this, because we have other things that we need to move on with.
Is there a motion?
I have a question first.
Please.
Thank you. Didn't Vaughn's reimburse us for our costs associated with putting the appeal together?
Yeah, a portion of these costs will be reimbursable. It's a good point.
Okay, so it's.
We have not gone back because some of those expenses are still ongoing, but we will be seeking some cost recovery. You're absolutely right.
Actually, yeah, I think they've paid us maybe on all the invoices, we sent them all but about $2,000, and we're still in discussion with them.
But we have an invoice for Mr. Flint's time.
Right.
No,
So
we're-
you're speaking solely to BBK's invoice.
Well, yeah, no, what the municipal code provides and our statute provides is that any direct cost that the city incurs, for instance, city attorney time, then you cover staff time by multiplying that by 20%. And so, let's say you had, which it wasn't this much, but let's say it's $100,000.
Oh, it could have been.
Then you add to that $20,000 to that deal that the developer pays to cover the staff time. And then if we have to use the consultant and the consultant bills us by the hour, then you also add that cost to the Vaughn's, to the bill, and then we get 20% for the staff time.
So our hit won't be $8,500.
It'll be
less than that. Okay.
All right, okay.
Great.
Well, that's much more palatable.
Motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, I make a motion to acknowledge and approve temporary planning department's contract expenditures from RGS beyond the city manager's spending authority, but not to exceed the amount of 8,300, 8,200.
Yeah.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Okay, let's call for the vote.
All ayes.
Okay, item number 10.
No, 11.
11, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So now we are moving back into the general business section again, where you have 4 additional items to consider. Item number 11 is the review and proposed approval of the City of Avalon Transit User Guide, Avalon Access Eligibility Application, Avalon Dial-A-Ride Eligibility Application. I'd like to turn this over at this point to Audrey McDonald, who may also bring up Roy from AMMA to explain what we have here.
We obviously don't have a paper reduction act in this community.
Sorry about that. So we've been talking about the transportation system for many months now, and we are in the middle of the RFP process. We had our mandatory meeting last Tuesday, and in order to give the proposers a clear definition of what's expected of them, the user guide and applications are before you for your approval in draft form. I would like to add on the Dial-A-Ride, as a result of some questions that we received, there was a suggestion that we consider, we are proposing that the Dial-A-Ride eligibility start at 65 years of age. But currently, the Dial-A-Ride users are eligible at 60. So a question was raised, could we grandfather the people that are currently eligible for the Dial-A-Ride so that they can continue on using the service, and then, and so we are suggesting that change.
It's a fun term to use with that, isn't it? Grandfather the Dial-A-Ride users.
Right.
Grandfather the 60-year-olds.
So, they're in draft form, and we're looking for any input that you have, and we would like to also recommend that we add into the dial-a-ride use, that the current users are grandfathered in until they're phased, yeah. That's,
What is the change from 60 to 65? What was the thought process behind that?
people are living longer and are more mobile, and I don't know, 60 does, I guess I'm 10 years away from 60, so I don't think I want to be considered a senior citizen at 60, I don't know. We just think that the trend is towards more mobility, so no offense to anybody that's 60 or 65.
Are we worried that if also that the buses would be full? Because you have, I mean, if it's gonna create ridership and dollars, wouldn't we want more people? In a way? Go ahead, Roy, hi.
Thank you. Good evening. Actually, we're not concerned about the buses being full. That would be a good move. But it's basically recognizing a transition, a move among transit agencies nationwide to move the definition of seniors from lower ages, some have even been as low as 55, to 65, which is more in recognition of lifespans and health state. And just that 60 is awfully young to be providing these expensive services.
62.
Well, there are a lot of different definitions.
63.
I've seen you walk. You get around pretty good, okay?
But this is just for the dial-a-ride vehicles,
Yeah.
not for the buses.
Right, okay. So drivers do not make change. Is that almost impossible? I mean, can that work? Can you make that happen?
Yes, it's $1 fare.
Okay.
So we figured that's an easy way to do it. And if you have drivers making change, it's just a nightmare keeping track of the money. We're trying
Right.
to take opportunities for shrinkage away.
Right.
And we're also requiring in the RFP fare boxes in the buses rather than collecting in an envelope or putting in your pocket or whatever, which happens in other systems. I'm not saying it happens here.
Right, no, okay. Sounds pretty simple, streamlined.
Okay, then how can I contact the Avalon Transit? Blah, 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 or stop by during business hours. So the purveyors of this service will have a phone at their beck and call so many hours a day? I mean, after they're not?
Yes.
You're requiring them to?
Those requirements are in the RFP also, that they will be providing a business line, an information line, that'll be staffed and available during normal business hours, 6:30 to 5 p.m. Daily.
Okay.
Of course, some of this will change. We didn't put data in. When we know the actual locations, we'll be putting the actual addresses in and actual phone numbers and such. But some of this will have to have some flexibility just simply because we don't know yet.
I mean, you've covered a lot.
It does cover a lot. There's a lot there.
And we're catching up from a long time back, so this is gonna be good to have these policies in place.
Nicely written, by the way.
Yes. Okay, I have one more
Nicely
question. I severely break my leg and I get AD, and I get my handicap thing, right?
Yes.
And I go to you, and I'm now eligible for 3 years?
You would come under temporary eligibility.
you'd come under temp.
Depends on how long you're going to have that broken leg. It's going to put you out of business.
Okay.
But you'd come under temporary status.
But you can also break it again.
We'd keep an eye on you if you develop this. I'm a little,
It's a miracle.
No special treatment for the mayor.
that's right, that's right. No, come on.
Okay. Comments from the community? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no more questions from us right now.
No. Even the application forms are big.
Would you like a motion?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I don't have any more questions on the little notes. Okay, I'm good. But community, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, council, what's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve the new transit user guide, Avalon Access Eligibility Application, and Avalon Dial-A-Ride Eligibility Application,
With the amendments.
with the amendments.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, call for the vote.
All ayes.
And when was that RFP going to be? Late, what did we decide, late November or first week in
They're
December?
due November 20th,
November 20th. All right,
so you'll be
That was-
seeing us in
first of December?
early January.
Oh, January, oh, okay. Thank you, great. Okay, that's exciting. Item number 12.
I'm going to hand this one over to the city attorney.
Yeah, this is the cleanup item for the municipal code. This deals with the revocation and modification of variances, CUPs, and non-conforming use permits. Basically, what the municipal code currently provides is if someone has this permit to do something and you have to ask the planning commission for permission or the council for permission. And it can be revoked if certain things happen. If you lied when you applied, if you stop using it, or if a provision is invalid. What our municipal code doesn't say is that if you were to say, I'll give you this entitlement if you do X, Y, and Z, and you don't do X, Y, and Z, we can revoke it or modify it. And so what we're doing is we're putting this in the municipal code to give the city that additional power. I think it's inherent already, but we want to make certain it's there. Let me give you an example. The Island Company at the Pavilion Lodge has a room in front that is available for guests to have wine. And it is only for guests, paying guests at the Pavilion Hotel to have wine. And when we gave them that permit, it was specifically said only guests can have wine there. Now, if the Island Company started opening it up to the public and let anyone go there, then we could bring that back to the Planning Commission for saying, hey, you guys said it was for guests, you're violating it, so therefore we're canceling it. Or we're going to modify it, we're going to punish them somehow. And so the purpose of this is to give that city the power when we've given a permit to someone, we've conditioned it, and they ignore the conditions, we need to be able to correct this. So that's what this is for.
Okay, so I have a question on the conditional use permit. I know we're looking into that whole process, and one of the things will be if you, well, I guess we don't have all the conditions that should eventually come under here, right? Because we were talking about on an annual basis, checking to make sure they paid a minimum amount and all. So once we finalize that, does that go in specifically or just?
This is only, well, if someone already has a conditional use permit, we look at those conditions, and if they're not following the conditions, we have the right to amend or revoke it. For those conditional use permits that have been granted, we have, the planning department has initiated the process to find out who's not using it. If we have a list of people who haven't used it, we've asked them to voluntarily give up their CUPs. And if not, then the next step would be whether the planning department wants to actually initiate an action to say, you're done. You can do that currently under the municipal code. What this does is, we gave you something, you said you'd do it, you're not doing it, and so you don't get it anymore.
So the specifics really aren't in this, it's the specifics are?
In each individual permit, yes.
Because we were talking about if you wanted to reapply, would there be a reapplication?
And we've done that, and we've actually implemented that structure, whereas if someone hadn't used it and we gave them a grace period, they have to pay the higher fee as if it was the initial fee.
Oh, I'd like to see that. I didn't realize we'd gone that far.
Well, okay, and there's parts of what you're speaking to that we have not yet addressed that we're going to bring back to you for consideration, namely the proposed yearly inspection program, et cetera. So there's only been some reform implemented, but not the comprehensive thing that you were looking to consider.
Well, the other thing was, if you're only giving us $12 a year because I give you $100 and you go, okay, I've spent $12, do we really want to maintain those kind of CUPs, but we're not generating any money? And we haven't approached that yet, right? We haven't touched that pony.
They still have to, if they use it once a year, they can keep it. And we have not modified, we have not gone through the process of bringing to the council an amendment to the municipal code and consideration to see whether there's a certain minimal use you want to have
Bless you.
of
Yes,
this.
and I think at one point we discussed that should be coming before us. So hopefully we're working on that.
And just so the council knows, when we receive letters from the public saying that someone doesn't have a CUP, we do investigate that. We've done some investigations recently and found that everyone that allegedly didn't have a CUP had a CUP.
Well, and I just would like to add, we don't wait to hear about it.
Right.
As a routine function, the finance department trolls the internet looking for rentals that are not licensed. That's part of their function.
Trolls the internet?
Trolls the internet, so to speak.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is to correct a hole in the municipal code.
Are there comments from the community? Okay. Council?
Motion. Amend the municipal code section regarding modification and revocation of variances, conditional use permits, and non-conforming use permits. Anything else?
And introduce and
Well,
waive.
it would just be introduce
and waive.
Introduce and waive all readings of an ordinance to the city of Avalon, California, amending title, and you have to read the whole title.
The city,
under-
that the city council introduce and waive all readings of an ordinance amending the municipal code section regarding modifications and revocation, variances, conditional use permits, and non-conforming use permits. Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Everybody jump up. I don't know how Denise decides. She's got a good ear.
Ladies first.
Oh, that's sweet. Okay, call for the vote.
All ayes.
Thank you. Item number 13.
Yes, and I'm going to probably lean on the city attorney a little bit on this one too, but item number 13 is another amendment to the municipal code, this time pertaining to wheel locks and allowing for the city to seek a full cost recovery when deploying a wheel lock to an abandoned vehicle, not only as the current code states with just the towing, but also for the impounding, immobilizing, and ultimately, if we need to, shipping over to San Pedro, having all those costs borne by the owner of the vehicle. This is something that you all know is something that's sorely needed here in the code because we don't have this mechanism currently. It's something that stops us routinely because we have no mechanism to recover costs. So this is an important addition to the code we're asking you to make this evening. So if we do have an abandoned vehicle, if we do use the wheel lock, we do end up impounding it and shipping it over. If there is a vehicle owner that we can identify, that we can recover the costs from, this will allow us to do so. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that the city is necessarily going to always be able to. Sometimes we're not able to identify the owner. Sometimes the owner is not reachable, et cetera, et cetera. You know that, of course. So this solves part of your problem with not having an impound yard here, but not all of your problem.
Questions? Comments? Do you have something you would like to share, Val? Okay.
So these vehicles will be shipped off the island, is that correct?
This would allow, if the city decides to, if you have an abandoned vehicle, if we deploy a wheel lock, if we impound it, and then we decide that it's in our interest to ship it off the island, we could recover the cost of that shipping off the island.
We don't have a place here, correct?
We do not have a place
So
here.
we'd have to ship them off if
Yeah,
this
part of the struggle that we have currently is that you have to construct impound yards a certain way, and it's very expensive, and nobody's been wanting to dedicate the valuable property on the island here for that purpose. It's one of our struggles.
So does that just go for vehicles, or is it, or if there's a boat or a trailer, or is those things like that are also?
It's a good question.
I think those are already covered. What this specific ordinance does is the use of the wheel lock.
The wheel lock.
Yeah.
The wheel lock goes over town to get.
Well, you could use a wheel lock on a trailer.
You could use it, yes, well, that would be a vehicle, so yes. It would apply to a boat trailer.
Okay.
Anything with a wheel.
And it shall be kept in a safe place for 30 days.
Impound yard in San Pedro.
So are we responsible for that when it's in the impound yard over town if something happens to it, or?
Well, we would have a contract with the impound lot that they're responsible, that's what the fees cover.
So then they come back, if such a vehicle is not currently registered, it shall be kept in a safe place for 30 days, and if not claimed by such time, shall be deemed an abandoned vehicle disposed of. So we're sending it over to San Pedro, and somebody comes up and goes, oh, no, that's my vehicle? And we gotta ship it back?
They have to ship it back.
They
gotta
will
go
They
over
can't
there,
get, they
pay
can't
the
get it
fees.
back unless they pay it. All the
Right.
fees, all the cost, reimburse the
good.
city
Okay.
completely.
Okay,
And then only if it's an operable vehicle.
okay, okay.
We're not gonna let them ship something that's not working over
Back to the
here.
island. Okay, oh, I'm sorry, that's,
Golf carts too, golf carts?
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely.
Primarily golf carts.
excellent.
Yeah, that's fine.
And good deal on the boot look. Okay,
Yeah. Thanks to the Mayor Pro Tem for bringing this one up.
yeah.
Want a motion?
We would like a motion if no comments from the community? Okay.
Move that the city council introduce and waive all readings of an ordinance amending Avalon Municipal Code, section 4417-12, to allow for cost recovery when a wheel lock is utilized on an abandoned vehicle.
There's a second. I'll second that one. Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Oh, look at, we're making such good time. Let's see if we can drag out item 14.
No.
Item 14. We've never had so many items and gone through them so quickly. Yeah.
Start of a new trend.
Next meeting, you're gonna pay. I can just see it now. You have one item.
No,
Don't
you're
jinx
gonna
it.
pay.
Moving on, item number 14, I'm going to
Yes.
kick to Ms. Ratty, who's going to explain the upcoming election on April 12, 2016, and the costs involved with that. Ms. Ratty?
You have 3 resolutions before you this evening, council, and the first one is just calling the election, which is for Tuesday, April 12, 2016. Candidates can pull their papers starting on December 21st, which is a Monday, all the way through January 15th at 5 p.m., and that's a Friday. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The election is for the one seat of the mayor, and it is for a term of 2 years. It is for 2 council members for terms of 4 years. Councilmember Olson and Councilmember Hernandez seats are up. And it is also for the city treasurer, which is a 4-year term. The first resolution also states that we would be paying the inspectors of each precinct $125, and each person that works the poll $100. And we pay the polling places $25. The second resolution is to ask LA County for their services. They provide the rosters of all our voters in town, and they update it twice. I get a 54-day count out roster, and then another one at 29 days before the election. And they really help out on signature verifications, the ones that I have a hard time with. The last resolution is on candidate statements. The city pays for the pamphlet, although everything that's in our pamphlets that go out to the voters. But if a candidate decides to put a statement in, then you have to determine if the candidate will pay for the translation, which is estimated at $175, and pay for the printing of it in English. Last year, or 2 years ago, excuse me, the candidate, when they filed and they had a statement, they paid $375. And if they want to put a beautiful photo of themselves, it went up to $425. And we're asking you to adopt all those resolutions, but determining on resolution number 3 if you want the candidate to pay or the city of Avalon to pay for the candidate statement in English and Spanish.
Okay, shall we take resolutions at a time? Start with the one on the top?
Sure.
Okay.
So calling the election.
Yes. Well, mine is, okay. Yes, calling for the election.
That one's pretty easy.
Okay, do you want to?
Do we make a motion to direct the city clerk to publish the notice of election?
The resolution.
Yes.
Or adopt
Excuse
the
me,
resolution?
To adopt the resolution.
Okay. Is that a motion on your part?
Yeah.
Okay, is there a second? Councilman Sampson?
A second.
Okay. Comments? Call for the vote?
All ayes.
Okay. The next one we're taking is,
Asking the county for their services.
yes. Okay. Is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yeah, I make a motion
Okay,
to
Mr.
move on the
Sampson?
resolution of the city council the City of Avalon, California, requesting the Board of Supervisors of the County of Los Angeles to render specified services to the city relating to the conduct of a general municipal election to be held on Tuesday, April 12th, 2016.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Call for the vote.
All ayes?
And that sounds like thunder.
That's my stomach. That's
And-
my stomach. Haven't eaten.
That was
And
last
the-
meeting.
And the third one is on the fees. So what is the pleasure of the council? Let's discuss those fees.
Now, you can run for election, you do not have to put that statement in, which I think on the last election, about half the candidates put statements in and the other half didn't. So it's not a mandatory thing to put a statement in.
Right.
And if you don't put the statement in, then the city pays.
It should be my opinion is it should be the candidate pays the statement fee
And the translation?
and the translation.
I agree with that as well.
I don't,
Okay.
yeah, I think the city should pay it. Because some people can't afford it.
Well, there is a caveat in there, Councilmember Sampson, that you can file and that fee gets waived. If
Okay,
you
you
can
can
prove
file.
that you can't pay for it, absolutely.
Okay, you can get that waived if you can't afford to pay it. Okay, so we can approve Councilman Cassidy's recommendation, and then there is,
Yes, and I provide that information when the candidate pulls their papers. I provide them with all that information. That
Okay.
if they're unable to pay, that all they
I'm
have to
fine
do
with
is-
that then.
Great. Okay. Motion by,
So I will make a motion to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Avalon, California, adopting regulations for candidates for elective office pertaining to candidates' statements submitted to the voters at the election to be held on Tuesday, April 12th, 2016, and that those fees be borne by the candidate.
I second that motion.
moved and seconded. Comments? Call for the vote.
All ayes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Well,
Closed session?
No closed sessions.
anyway, thank you everyone for being here.
Good night, Tony.
And
Good night,
good
Tony.
night, Tony. Meeting adjourned.